Cindy, just briefly. I don't think I've met Brandon before, and Greg I've talked to before, and Marlene, but I am the councilman elect for District 7, and so I just thought I would come and introduce myself. As I say, I've lived in Perry area since 1976. I think that makes it about 46 years or something like that. I guess I'd rather not think of it that way. I also am new to county politics for the most part, although I did run, if you remember back that far, 10 years ago, I did run for prosecutor. I ran in the Republican primary against Dina Finnegan. Dina won, not by much, but it was enough, and she was good prosecutor. I've been a member of the state bar. This next year I'll be 50 years, and I'm kind of waiting around the state bar so the bar recognizes me for having been a member for 50 years. But I spent 25 years with the Attorney General's office, so I have a lot of familiarity with state government. Not too much involvement with local government unless that was required. I went to a law school graduated from Michigan State, went in the Army for a couple of years, and then I went to law school at Wayne State University in Detroit and practiced law since 1973. I live on M52 just north of Perry, about a mile north of Perry, right near Winnegar Road and M52. And looking forward to working with all of you on the commission, and I think it's an important responsibility. County government is in kind of a middle position. Of course, most of the legal authority lies with the legislature and with the governor, the executive branch. But counties do have an important role to play in governing our populace, and so I look forward to coming on the board in January and working with you all. And I guess that's about it for now.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure to hear your introduction today. Is there anyone else who would like to address this committee? All right, hearing none, then we'll move into item E.
Item E.
Yeah.
Under the Public Safety and Courts Committee, item E, I move to approve the proposal for ultraviolet air sanitation from AQSC, Air Quality Solutions, and consulting in an amount not to exceed $22,421. Just to add a side note, it's not printed here, this is for the jail.
Got it.
Support.
We have motion and support, and now it's open for questioning. Thank you for being here.
Sorry. We don't know what the installation cost is going to be.
Do you have any clue at all?
Point is, this isn't an emergency.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what our proper procedure is, but I was going to move that we table the further discussion and consideration of this until we know the full cost. If it were a big emergency, I'd say that's fine, but this month, next month, I think we're rushing this without knowing the full cost.
Well, I don't understand how we can even pass a motion without knowing the cost.
Well, this is only for the material. I suppose we could, but I just don't think it would be a wise thing to do.
To have the material but not have it installed. Yeah. that
To
doesn't-
know what the installation is going to cost, I think we're rushing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I
Which-
request that maybe we hear from Tracy?
Yeah, that's why
We did
we
have a
moved
question
it
about
first.
funding last night, and we might as well hear what those numbers are, so when we have the whole package, we know and not have to make her hang around again, so.
There's two parts to this. We can look into using the state grant, which is actually federal pass-through funds for COVID stuff, to see if it would cover this. Without me looking at it, and I have not had a chance to look at it today, I don't know that it does. If it does, then we have to make sure that we follow the proper procedure that the board adopted in the past for procurement. Procurement between $5,000 and $50,000 requires 3 bids. Unless it's a sole source item, we use like a My Deal program where the bidding has already been done. So you guys are caught in an item that you really should have sent out for bid. So without approving, if you guys were to approve this, first off, you're between 5 and 50,000 already with just materials. We don't know if installation is gonna be significant, it could throw it over the $50,000 mark, then you guys would be violating your own procedures by going forward with this, because then you're over 50,000 and we have to advertise and do bids that way. And we don't wanna get caught that way if we can help it. If we can use the grant money, that's federal money, and federal money requires, and on audit, they would catch that we didn't do that bid process properly. So I would have to say, please do not approve this at this point until we know what it's truly gonna cost us to get this installed. Because if we were to use federal money to pay for it, which I don't know if we can or not, I know that's a theory because this was to help with COVID and make sure that if COVID were to get in our jail, it's gonna kill it before it spreads. I get the theory behind it from what just a little bit I've heard. However, we cannot afford on audit to have the federal government kick it back and say, we're not covering this out of money, now pay us back. $30,000 to $50,000 would be an item that would, significantly hurt. Especially when, if this has been a year in the making or something, there's no reason we don't have the rest of the estimate. And obviously, if our normal contractor that we use for doing electric work says he can't do it, there's something to this. This isn't just hang 2 hooks and plug it into a wall outlet. Our own guys could have done that if that was the case. But if our regular electrician doesn't even install this stuff, then there's way more to it than what you guys know about at this point. So we have a huge piece of this missing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That was pretty direct.
That's
Don't mince
Tracy.
words, what do you really think?
Crazy not to listen to
Well,
that.
I'm on my way back from a government seminar today, so.
And it's your birthday.
Yes, happy
It is.
birthday.
Today is my birthday. I'm gonna go to exercise classes with my friends and then we're going out for dinner, so.
Right.
Well, we were suspect yesterday when Ludington said, I don't install that stuff.
Yeah, that's,
So we were suspect,
Which is Harris now, actually, Ludington is.
or Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right, excuse me.
Yeah.
Ludington does some work still,
Yeah.
so. But either way, if they're not capable of doing this and it's not something they do, that means we're going to a higher cost place yet. And if it was brought up a year ago, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, the person that should have done the rest of the work has dropped the ball and we are missing a huge piece of this. So I think we
So
need
can
to
you
be
find
proactive.
out if this would be covered and then?
Yes, we
Maybe, I'm happy to follow up and as the chair of Public Safety and Courts and see if we can pull the pieces together that we need, but,
Yeah, I understand not wanting something like that to come through the jail and spread again. And if we can use the federal money, that's fine, but we need all of our ducks in a row, before we can go that far. So, I can look into that tomorrow when I come in. I'll review that new jail grant that we got. So, or I can also check the ARPA money grant may cover it, I don't know for sure. We are basically to the limit, I think, on using ARPA funds as far as revenue replacement, which means the rest of ours, we really do have to make sure it's project associated and matches the projects available. And I'm not certain, I don't know that that's truly COVID prevention. It seems like it's preventing a lot of things, which could get it kicked out of COVID stuff. So, but I will work on it tomorrow.
Mr. Board Chair, you mentioned that you may be interested in tabling this. Would we consider an indefinite period until we've done our homework?
Yes, I would make such a motion.
Okay, so the Board Chair has made a motion that we table this item
Support.
indefinitely.
Well, just
Which
another,
just means until further notice, it's not gone.
so our next step then is for Tracy to figure out, number 1 is the grant and what grant able to cover this, but number 2, we still have the problem of the installation cost. Who is the person that's going to get that for us?
Well,
I would also like to do a little bit of research. I mean, we did have people that are talking to us, but of course they were salespeople, effectively. We should make sure that the system we are installing is going to be an effective use of our money, the best use of the money for that sort of thing. So we were just rushing on this. So
that's another question. Is it
We
3
may-
bids on the installation as well as the items?
It's one project, so
Okay,
they
one
should be able to, and they, whoever we get the equipment from, we have to find out. If it's specialty equipment where this is the only company that makes it, you'll never get 3 bids. You can use their stuff.
Okay.
That's fine. But they may have an electric company that they say, hey, we work with this company, they're used to doing this install, they're gonna do it fast, they're gonna know what they're doing, and they're gonna do it right. So we may have to use theirs, and that's fine if it's specialty equipment, nobody else makes it, or very limited. Otherwise, yes, we do need to look into, should we have had 3 bids for it? So, it sounds very specialized though, so I would not be surprised if we can't get 3 bids on something like that. So.
Okay, all right, so we do have a motion to table indefinitely this, go ahead.
If it's under 50,000, we don't have to have 3 bids?
No, between 5 and 50,000, our procurement policy says we get 3 bids.
Oh,
Over 50,000 means we have to post the bids in the newspaper
oh.
and do extra steps to get more bids.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
So, but yes, between 5 and 50, that is what the board has said. That's not federal guidelines, but that is what the board has adopted.
Good rule, stick to it. Very good, all right. So it was moved by the board chair to table and seconded by Commissioner Garber.
Yep.
Is there any other discussion regarding this item? All right, hearing none, all in favor of tabling the item, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
That item will be tabled. Thank you, Commissioner Olshausen, with 1 nay. With that, thank you for being here, Tracy, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, you're in here. Okay. Now get out of here, go have fun. Jeez, all right, with that, we'll move into our special presentation from Mr. Frank Walsh. Sir, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. That was an interesting discussion. I'm Frank Walsh. I own a firm in Okemos, Walsh and Associates. We've been doing recruiting for about 25 years. We've worked from Marquette to Saugatuck to Durand to St. John's to the Thumb area. We've done all over the state. We only handle Michigan recruitments, and we only handle a certain amount of clients at one time. I don't know how much of a I know you've provided a background.
Yeah, we're just heading here for questioning, really.
Yeah,
You don't have
okay.
to go. If
Okay. Yeah, I want to be as brief as possible, respect your time. So we do recruitments. It's a tough recruiting environment out there. Muskegon just announced their finalists for city manager yesterday. They're offering a $200,000 salary, and they had 1 Michigan applicant. That tells you a little bit about how rough the waters are out there right now. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about timeline. The only thing really for the commission that the most interesting things to think about would be, what's your salary range going to be? I would need to know that before we move forward. And what is your timing? There's really 2 ways to do the recruitment. One is we can do a survey of a lot of people. We can take about 3 to 5 weeks, do a survey, put a profile together, put that in. Or some communities, more communities, choose to, and it's a timing thing. If you're okay with a longer process, we can do the profile, we can do the survey and all that. If you prefer to get moving quicker, then we really focus on the ad, and we can publicize in about a week. And it's still a 4-week recruiting period. And then it's about, if you don't do the profile, it's less than 90 days that you have a new controller, if everything goes well. You're just adding about 3 to 4 weeks onto that to do the profile. So I don't know where you are on the timing. That's really the only 2 issues before the Board of Commissioners, as far as getting started.
So the profile would be what we're looking for in county coordinator, right?
Yes.
And that's put together, you say a survey, is that commissioners, is that employees, citizens, all the above?
Yeah, that's up to you. I get the list from you. You determine the list of who you want surveyed. Because some people do it differently. You know, they want, certainly the Board of Commissioners, and then you look at some department head. It's totally up to you. You give me a list, which usually the manager, the controller puts together based on input from you. I get that list, then I send an electronic survey out. I give you about a week to fill that out. I get it back, and then I start putting together a profile, write all that up, and then we start publicizing after that. That's what the process is for a survey and a profile.
Frank, have you handled county coordinator or administrator lately?
Lately, Yeah, about 11 months ago, we did Alpena County. And an interesting fact there, the young lady that was hired there, Michigan State, if you know any history of Michigan State, John Hanna, who was president of Michigan State for a long time, his granddaughter actually got the job in Alpena.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do you think our chances are of landing someone is relatively soon? I mean, relatively,
Yeah,
60 days, 90 days.
Yeah. For me, when you start looking at getting into the holidays, if you have that extra 3 or 4 month or 3 or 4 week delay in doing a profile, that delays you a little bit. You get more into the holidays. I tend to want to stay away from the holidays. I would want to, if I were you, I'd want to get going sooner than later. I don't know when your current controller is retiring, but that would move into have something to do with the decision. But you know, we have a strong success rate, and we're here until you're satisfied, and that could take a while, just with the recruiting or the recruitment world that's out there right now.
Frank, what do you think we have to pay to get a selection of candidates?
You know, this is not what you're going to want to hear.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
I know, that's
yeah,
why I'm asking.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. The city of Chelsea was paying their manager $116,000, and he left after 14 years. They knew that the market, they went 130 to 140. I'm telling you that because it's not unusual at all right now to pay more than what you're paying your existing manager, controller, administrator.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah. What is your current? Do you know your current salary?
I think it's 93.
93.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think you're going to have to be at a minimum 100 to 110 would be the range I would try to shoot for. It might be a little low, but I think we can. Being that Shiawassee County, your cost of living here is a little not where some of the areas are at. I think we could get someone at 1 to 110.
So I have a question. What is the involvement of this board in the process? Do we see all the applicants? Do you bring us a handful of applicants? Do we do the interviews? Do you guide us through how to do the interviews?
Good question. So no, you don't see all the applicants. You're hiring me to bring you the best 4 or 5, 6 candidates. I don't know what that number will be until we do the recruitment. Like I'm meeting with the city of Grand Haven on Monday night. We had 43 applicants. I'm bringing them 8, and they're going to choose 5 on Monday night. And if you look at my profile or the RFP that I put together for you, I will bring you the top, hopefully 5, 6, 7 people, and then we're allowed to meet in closed session under the Michigan Open Meetings Act. All the candidates will require confidentiality, and that will allow me to come and meet with you. Once the application period is over, we'll come and meet, and you'll have all the resumes. They'll be redacted. They won't have any phone numbers or emails on it or addresses, but you'll have the names, their titles, and all that. One other thing we do that I find very useful in the process that separates us from a lot of the firms is we'll provide a candidate questionnaire. And it's only 6 questions, and you'll get that too. And the candidates really think that we're asking about projects and all that, but we really want to focus in on question 5. And that is there anything in your background that you want to share right now that if it comes out later would be embarrassing to Shiawassee County? And we want them to answer that question before we come and meet with you. Because if something does come, I've seen a lot of things, trust me. And so we want them to, in writing, to protect all of you in case something does come out later. So I meet with you, closed session, you choose your top 4 or 5, we set up interviews, I do all the interview questions, I attend the interviews, I prepare the booklets for you. That's really your involvement. Choosing candidates, you conduct the interviews, you ask the questions, I'm just in the back room for the interview process.
What about candidates that come to us through other processes? Our newspaper ad, our website, people, somebody makes a connection, somebody knows somebody. How do we fit that in?
You just email me. You'll get weekly you will always know what's going on with this process because every Friday night you'll get an update from me. We've got 17 applicants, 2 of them look good. Here's what, kind of the backgrounds of, you'll know exactly where we are. If you get an inquiry about a candidate you just send them to my email, and I'll make all the contacts and I'll do all the legwork on that.
Okay.
Because it could, you see a lot of candidates right now that are getting positions, like for instance, the city manager in Durand. He was a landscape architect, and he's doing a great job for the city of Durand. So we can't just look at people who just have government experience. We've got to cast the net wider, because the number of candidates out there right now is not significant. And I'm a very, very proactive recruiter.
Yeah, we know the labor market's tight for this activity.
It is, but it's a great place to live, it's centrally located, and at that salary level, you put it in there, we're gonna be fine. And this maybe doesn't happen, but if we go through 4 weeks and you're not satisfied, we go a different route. We're here until you're satisfied, until you get the person you want. We also guarantee our work. You know, there's a 1-year guarantee that if it doesn't work out, we're right back here redoing this at no cost. And it has happened.
In your experience with this type of position, what length of contract do you generally need to offer? You mentioned things not working out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so typically you start out with a 2 or 3 year contract, but that contract's limited by the severance. So even if you start with a 3-year contract, doesn't mean that if it doesn't work out, you're paying the expiration of that, or the tenure of that contract. You're only paying the severance, and typically for this position, severance would start at 6 months. That's pretty much what an existing manager expects to start with a contract, especially for a community like this. It might be different if it's in a small town. I'm doing Brown City right now, which is over in the thumb. It's 1,300 people. That's a different type of contract. No, nothing against Brown City. It's a different setup. But for here, you probably have a 6-month severance. And so in case it doesn't work out, that would be the only commitment you would have, not the tenure of the contract. And I will help you along with the contract when we get to that point.
Any other questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the possibility of working with all of you.
All right, with that, the ending of that presentation, let's move into our committee motions and reports, and we'll start off with the Chairman of Finance and Administration, Mr. Claude.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the proposal from Duran Row for repairs to the limestone exterior of the Surbeck building in an amount not to exceed $35,500.
Support.
Item A moved and supported. Questions or discussion regarding this item? Hearing none, all in favor of moving item A forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the new OPEB trust document as presented.
Support.
Item B has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion regarding this item?
On this,
Hearing none, all in favor of item B moving forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries.
I move to approve the agreement with Walsh Consulting to conduct a coordinator search.
I support that.
Item C has been moved and supported and is now open for discussion.
Tracy has just brought something to my attention. We were talking earlier about our procurement policies, and this likely falls under our procurement where we have to get bids, or if it's possible there weren't any available, but I don't think we have gone through the process of trying to get 3 bids. Tracy, please pipe up if I'm wrong about this.
I believe that we only have 2 in so far, this one and one other. That's my belief at this point, but we would still need a 3rd bid. You guys do have the ability to override these processes, but in the past, this is what you guys had adopted, so just be aware.
Again, our own policies. Go ahead.
So I've been on this board for almost 4 years, and I've asked about a procurement policy in the past and have not heard this. I'm glad to hear that we have this, but I don't recall that we've done this in the past. So I'm glad to start, but I just wonder why we're starting right now.
That is a good question.
Saved by the bell.
Sounds like we're starting now.
We have actually tried to follow it in most cases, that stuff's all done behind the scenes before you guys see it.
So maybe that should
So
change,
it
because I think we should probably see the bids if
I
that's
agree
what
with that.
happens.
If that's what happens. Sometimes they're sole source contracts, or we just go to My Deal. If we go to My Deal, we are using state contracts, they're state negotiated rates, which generally is gonna be the best that we're gonna get anyway. So a lot of times, that's what we try to do, is My Deal or MITNT, or MINT, because those are state negotiated items. And a lot of times, that's what we do. But he's not here to say that he did anything, or that he's reviewed 3 bids, or how he come up with where this is at, so.
Was the second bid you're talking about the MML where they said, we can't even do anything?
Yes.
So, is there a third one? That is there someone else? Have we requested bid? Have we?
I don't know, but I know there's a lot of recruiting firms out there that are capable of doing this, so we should be able to get a bid from someone else if necessary. I do know this is a time-sensitive issue, though. The longer, the more we put it off, the harder it's gonna be, the more problems we're gonna have. So.
Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Okay, through the procurement process, if we need a third bid, we're not sure, because our county coordinator's on vacation, that if he tried to find a third bid or a fourth bid or whatever. So possibly what we do today is table this, and we have to have a special meeting, Mr. Chairman. You can call a special meeting.
I'm sure we could. In fact, we have a special meeting
On
already. We're planning on the 29th, the same day as the groundbreaking.
Right.
We could, what's today, the 13th or something like 14th? That pushes it off 2 weeks.
I think that's a decent time.
We could also elect to override our procurement policy, which, considering that we considered this on September 1st and tabled it until today, I think we need to find a way to move forward with this process.
I would agree with Commissioner
The
Brooks.
time is getting very tight on this.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, believe me, I won't be here on January 1st. Not that you need me.
If I could just.
Now you are
And
aware.
neither will your county coordinator.
So.
To the procurement policy, I think in most times we have followed it, and when I have questions on it or any bid, I direct my questions to the finance director, and I think we've illustrated today why I do that.
There is an emergency policy in there, so if you guys wanna deem it that and say, hey, we just need to move on, we've got to get this going. This is not a quick process, this isn't just put in the newspaper, we're gonna get a good response. No, we need the help, we do need something. You guys have that ability to say, hey, we're gonna consider this an emergency and just go with it.
And how do we do that?
I think we just alter the motion to say
Yes.
that
Override policy.
we move to approve the agreement with Walsh Consulting to conduct a coordinator search and override our existing procurement policy that 3 bids are required, in light of the fact that we have 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
We take bids on all kinds of equipment, all kinds of things, and we don't
Right,
have
we-
3 bids, so.
I know.
Gee.
Well, sometimes we can't
We had
get
to wait for
them.
3 bids, we'd be here for Christmas, so.
I think we should hire Tracy as the coordinator. Sometimes, I mean, she wears a lot of hats. And we hired our finance director on our own, and I know I'm the only dissenter on this, but I think it's work this board should do, and I think we could do it very well. I think we've done it well in the past. I think we have a fantastic administrative team that we've basically put together in the last couple of years, so.
Well, I think the comment's been made in this room that we don't feel qualified to evaluate a coordinator, and if we don't feel qualified to evaluate, that means we don't know the criteria that we're hiring for. Because those would be the same criteria, so.
I don't think we can come to a consensus on an evaluation, and I think we open ourselves up to another lawsuit by trying to do that.
Do you guys create evaluations for positions like this that we could also buy from you?
We do, you wouldn't have to buy anything from me, I'm just gonna, if you want an evaluation process, I would just give you something,
Like that.
6 months along the way, I could help you out with that. There's no additional cost to anything, if you need help, just let me know. This is a passion for me, not a job.
Yes, sir.
If I may, following on Commissioner Garber's comments, I think that the downside of hiring a firm is that we may find someone on our own, go through, but have seen the last couple of years, whoever we pick for a county coordinator is going to have a tremendous influence on the future of this county, past the tenure of the county coordinator. So I think that it is worth the investment to ensure that, that we get a person. Now, if it turns out the person is in our backyard, yep, we may have said, gee, we could have done that without, but we don't know that at this point. And I think there is a fairly good chance that we may find someone through a search firm that we wouldn't have otherwise found. I think it is worth the $14,000 gamble.
And I would further add, just adding to what Chairman Brodeur just said, was even if we do find a great person in our backyard, I don't think it's a secret that this board has sort of had a reputation for hiring people that we know. And that's not always a great policy. So if the person in our backyard goes through this process, it lends credibility to that. That we didn't just hire a crony. We hired a person who was vetted with all of these other people, and this was still the candidate that we chose, even though they're from our backyard. It will just allow us to, with credibility, choose somebody in our backyard.
And like he said, it's gonna come with that review process. He's gonna assist the board with doing that review going forward, which you guys have talked about several times.
So
And
the
that was
question,
done, so that would allow that as
so the
well.
questions come back to, do we want to do this today? I'm okay with it today.
I would amend my motion to say we would override our policy because of timeliness.
You were a second.
I second that.
Okay. All right, yep. It's my opinion that the average citizen in this county would say there are some things based on our past that commissioners need to start keeping their hands off. And having a neutral, transparent operation like this to find the most valuable position in operating this county and its finances is probably the time to be transparent and do the right thing. So I agree with you all. Any other commissioners that would like to comment at this time? Yes.
I'm just going to clarify, to override existing procurement policy to forego the three-bid process. Okay.
And I might add that the Michigan Municipal League declined to take on or bid this project. They said they would, but they didn't know when they could get to us because they have so many. So, yeah.
All right. We'll have to clean that motion up if this passes for tomorrow, but is there any other discussion?
None.
Hearing no other discussion, all commissioners in favor of moving this item forward as adjusted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion will pass with one nay. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
And thank you, Commissioner Plowman. At this time, we will. Yes, sir.
Ask a quick question.
Yeah.
So, just with your process and everything, when would
Tomorrow is the final.
the final?
Yep, this time tomorrow you will know.
Okay. All right, and would you also take up that discussion of whether you want to get started in a week or two, or you want to?
That is a good question. We almost
How
need a
about
workshop on
yesterday?
that.
Yeah.
But we gotta decide what we want, right? It's probably, we have to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost in a workshop format.
That and a salary level are all I need to get started
Okay.
if you move forward, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks Frank for your info.
No problem. All right, with that, we'll move on to our Economic and Physical Development Committee. Mr. Board Chair, would you mind reading off that report for me?
I certainly would be happy to.
Yes,
I
sir.
move that we approve the L-4029-2022 tax rate request as presented and instruct the chair and clerk to execute the same.
Support.
Item A has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of moving item A forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
I move that we approve resolution number 22-09-13, establishing the state authority over plumbing and mechanical. And hold on a moment, please, before I finish that. I got a note about that today.
Yep, I think we may
Yeah, I got an email
be able
too.
to remove that.
Yes, we need, did we need to remove the whole thing?
Yep.
I withdraw my motion.
And I believe that the reasoning is because Mr. Preston has found an individual to be able to do that. Fine.
Somebody dropped out of the sky.
Yeah. All right, so hopefully everyone's okay with that. We'll drop that from the agenda.
All right.
Well, the minutes will reflect that the motion was withdrawn because it's
Yes.
been carrying through.
Perfect.
Do you want me to add, because, the community director?
Yeah, do that.
Found
Put a
someone?
reason. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Because if that person doesn't come through, we may be here next
Yeah.
month. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes. And finally, I move that we approve the PA 116 farmland agreement application 2200008 for Mark Senk as presented.
Support.
Item C has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Board Chair, for reading my report for me. With that, we'll move into our Public Safety and Courts Committee meeting. Chairman Webster.
Item A, I move to accept the grant for Mid-State Health Network and approve the contract with James Roper for services and have the board chair execute the same.
Support.
Item A has been moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item B, I move to approve the appointment of Theo Smith to the Shiawassee County Jury Board.
Support.
Item B has been moved and supported. Questions, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
Item C, I move to approve the contract as presented from LACASA in an amount not to exceed $54,040 to be paid from the Child Care Fund and authorize the board chair to execute the agreement.
Support.
Item C has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Item D, I move to approve the replacement of a corrections deputy not to exceed step 3.
Support.
All right, that item has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion? Again, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Same side. That motion carries.
And since we've already dealt with item E, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that report. Now we'll move into our Health and Human Services Committee report. The chairman of that committee is Madam Garber.
Thank you. I would move that we approve the contract renewal with Convenient Urgent Care for Sexually Transmitted Infection Services and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
All right, item A with a motion of support. Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
I move that we approve the contract from RESD to fund a school nurse for 1 year in all Shiawassee school districts and authorize the board chair to execute the same.
Support.
Item B has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion regarding the item? Hearing none. Oh,
It's quite appropriate.
yes it is.
Very needed.
Yes it is. Very good. Good stuff. All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of item B moving forward signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? That motion carries. And thank you for your report. Mr. Chair, I turn the floor over to you for a report.
All right, I think the big thing I would like to report to all of you tonight is what's going on with the land bank. We got some very good news with the land bank. We are working with the state land bank in a cooperative way. The state land bank, because we had not had one here, owns 30 pieces of property in Shiawassee County, and they have offered to turn them all over to us. Now, a number of those properties are kind of useless. They are little strips 5 feet wide, you know, that something maybe used to be half an alley and 30 feet long. Some of them, there's one that's underwater. I think we can refer to that as a pristine wetland if we want to sell it. But anyway, the good news is there are, if you're familiar in Owasso with a project up on Gould Street near the high school, there's an unfinished kind of a little neighborhood there, condo complex, where I believe the builder went bankrupt. There are 14 properties there that the state land bank is going to give our land bank. We will be able to market those in some way to get them developed. That money will go right into the land bank, and the land bank will have startup capital. The land bank will then be able to pay back the county, because we've been subsidizing them to a certain extent. We'll be able to pay back the county. The land bank will own those properties, so there will be no potential liability, I think, for the county. Remember, the land bank is its own entity. But then we'll be able to talk to start, I think, for the land bank. Other properties, we will look to, if like it's a little strip of land next to some, we'll offer to, with the neighbors, sell it, bid it out, sell it for $1, $10, whatever somebody wants to pay it, so we can get it off the tap. There'll be a certain amount of cleaning up of these properties, so all of that is very good news. And as you know, we are now in effect combining, not on paper, but de facto combining the land bank and the new brownfield we're going to start up for a much more efficient usage. So I'm very pleased with that. We're getting some development started, which, as you know, we all need in this county. We've got to increase our tax base over the years. So that's a real good start, and it's a real good start to throw some funds into the land bank, so we have a little bit of wiggle room. That was a big thing for today.
Good news.
Yes, indeed. Very pleased.
All right, well, because our coordinator's not here, we'll skip to any other commissioner who would like to make a comment at this time. All right, hearing none. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this committee at this time? Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to assure the board you have been following that policy. My office started in 2018. We used my deal in 2019 to procure our office equipment for the public defenders. And then we did do a bid process for painting and flooring, which I had 30 different bids, submitted it to a package to the board, was approved. So I wanted to show to Webster. Ms. Webster, to know that the county has been abiding by that policy. And usually department heads take care of that.
I see.
Also, you know, you bring that up also to Tim Hill, our maintenance director, of course. A lot of times he goes out and gets the bids, we get the best bid. So sometimes we don't even hear the other bids.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, I have usually only just seen one and just wasn't aware of how filtering now.
I just didn't want any reporters or
No, thank you.
running wild.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to address the committee at this time?
You mentioned a special meeting on the 29th. When is that?
I don't think we have officially posted that yet, but there is some thought about a meeting on the 29th. That is the same day as the vet's groundbreaking at 1 o'clock. I hope everyone and everybody from the public, everybody shows up. I'd love to make that a big thing. We might have a special meeting, not sure what time, nothing set, but that would be for us to approve bids on the courthouse building. So everybody get ready to hear some really big numbers.
Jaw dropping.
Oh yes, I'm going to need my vacation after that.
All right, any questions or comments about that? Madam Clerk, please set.
I just wanted to have it on my
Good
calendar.
question. That was a good question.
I heard that.
But we don't know the time.
That's
don't.
okay.
So
I
it's not
suspect that when our
technically
coordinator gets back next week, he's probably going to contact all of us and see what we can work out, and hopefully we can work it out that day. Since we're all,
I'll put it down there as a.
since we're all coming to the groundbreaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, last call. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
I thought groundbreaking was a throwing step. He changed